Hey now, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to hour number 3 of the Line Talk 99.5, talk995.com, and on YouTube, Real Talk 99.5 TV. That's right. You can watch us on YouTube, watch the radio show live. You can see myself, Andrew Mclain, and the best producer in the entire world, John Bird.
You stop it right now.
Even though he gets in a panic sometimes, as he did during that last break, because there are allegations that someone may have taken his drink out of the refrigerator. Is that the case?
No, I actually left it in my bag. So I want to apologize to everybody here at Cumulus Birmingham.
I knew that was going to happen. I knew because I was in the break room with him, and he says, "Oh my God, somebody took my drink." And I was like, "He's going to find it in about 5 minutes." And sure enough, you did. But thankfully, we do not, here in Birmingham, we do not have problems with people taking stuff that's not theirs out of the refrigerator.
No, they're really good
We
about
first of all have the wonderful Cumulus Cafe, which is always stocked with food and goodies and everything anybody needs. So there's no need for someone to take from somebody else. But everybody, keeps their hands to themselves, if you will, which is a good thing to do in a workplace, right? So a lot of things going on, and I even noticed on the text line that somebody said we are just 1 hour away from the greatest moment in the history of radio, which would be Jumper plays the guitar. The return of, it's not just any John Bird plays the guitar. It is the return of John Bird plays the guitar. I'm very excited about that. But we'll get to that in due time. Now, I have talked a lot about a topic, this particular topic, over the past couple of weeks, and it's got to do with what we've been seeing in schools, in high schools in particular, and that is students walking out of class, whether it's prompted by the student body or the administration or whatever, to go out and protest ICE on the streets, maybe on school property, maybe down the road, whatever. There's been a lot of different examples of this. I just saw one this morning, and it was out of Florida, where a Florida father pulled his child from school. He had to leave work and go to the school after he gets word that his kid is out on the side of the highway on an overpass with the rest of the students in some sort of show of solidarity or protest or whatever you want to call it that was anti-ICE related, and he claims when he gets there, he's like, this is not only wrong, like these kids need to be in class studying, but this is dangerous. Like, this is during school hours, and there's kids out here on the side of the road. They could easily get hit by a car. Somebody could get seriously injured, and he's 100% right about that. But that has happened here in the state of Alabama as well. We've seen it in North Alabama. We've seen it at other schools. You would think in a red state like Florida, you wouldn't see stuff like that, but you do. And so no state's immune to this. And there's multiple reasons why you would have the vast majority of students in any particular class or grade or high school get involved in this, and that is either they believe in this anti-ICE protest, this anti-ICE narrative, or they see this as an opportunity to get out of class, which most of us, when we were in high school, would have taken our teachers or our administration up on. We're like, yeah, we get to skip math class to go walk down the street. I'm good with that. We would have all done that. No matter how long ago it was you were in high school, you would have done that. You would have been cool with it. Even if you see some of these images, and I think the one in particular I saw was out of North Alabama. I don't remember which school, but there were students out there that had signs, but there were also students that were just kind of sitting on the bench and hanging out with their friends. And I'm like, yeah, those are the ones that didn't want to protest, but did want to get out of class. It's easy to get this. And whatever the reason is, whatever the prerogative is of these teachers or these administrators, they know that it is extremely easy to get these children out of class and to create a news story, to have the local news show up and start covering it and make a big deal about it and create a narrative that, hey, everybody's on board, even our young people. The thing is, the left and the right have been in a battle over the past few years over the minds of the young people. That has historically, I mean, I'm talking about in just the past few decades, has been owned by the left or the Democrat Party. It was usually if you're young, you're liberal. It's the older people that are conservative and everything. But that there has been a shift, a ginormous shift in which way the young people are leaning. So what you see here is a tactic by the left to recapture in one way or another the minds of the young people. And you see it all over the country, including here in the state of Alabama. But that's not the issue I want to talk about. There are other problems that are going on in our schools, in particular here in the state of Alabama. I got this from 1819 News, and this is going to be shocking to you, John Bird. In Pickens County,
Mm-hmm.
Alabama, a teacher has been arrested on child pornography charges,
Oh,
and it makes the fourth teacher arrested in 2026. It is now what, February 19th?
oh my gosh.
So a month and a half, we've had 4 teachers arrested. Listen to how this lays out. On Tuesday, this past Tuesday, Lakeithia Wilkins, a Pickens County 4th grade teacher, was arrested on charges of child pornography and using her position for personal gain. The Aliceville Elementary School teacher's arrest is the 4th teacher arrest in Pickens County, not in the state of Alabama,
Whoa.
in Pickens County in 2026.
Okay, there's got to be a ring or something going on there.
As first reported by the Tuscaloosa Thread, Wilkins' arrest is just the latest in a series involving 4 different teachers facing charges related to the abuse of minors. Aliceville High School teacher and a pastor at the First Baptist Church of Aliceville, 58-year-old Winston Bishop, was arrested on Monday afternoon on charges of solicitation of child pornography, possession of child pornography, illegal distribution of a controlled substance, and providing drugs to a minor. This was not just a high school teacher. This was the pastor at the First Baptist Church of Aliceville.
Oh my.
That's the set. That's number 2. Here's number 3. The third Pickens County educator, 28-year-old Ontavious Belgrave, a social studies teacher at Aliceville High School, was arrested by the Pickens County Sheriff's Office. He also remains in the Pickens County Jail on a $1 million bond. He was arrested on February 6th and charged with felony indecent exposure, 3 counts of sexual misconduct, 3 counts of ethics violations, 3 counts of failure to report child abuse, and 3 counts of felony distributing a private image. Those 3 arrests followed a January 30th arrest of 41-year-old Aliceville High School math teacher Roderick Granger. Granger was arrested by Aliceville Police Department following what APD described as a, quote, proactive and ongoing investigation conducted in coordination with the 24th Judicial Circuit District Attorney's Investigation Division. According to the post on the APD page, quote, the Aliceville Police Department remains committed to protecting the innocent and ensuring justice for victims. The public is reminded that sharing, downloading, or viewing such material is a serious felony offense. Granger was charged with possession of child sex abuse material, dissemination of child sex abuse material, solicitation of child sex abuse material, failure to report child abuse, and an ethics violation. He remains in Pickens County Jail with a $1 million bond. All 4 teachers, according to the article, are innocent until proven guilty. But as you stated, that seems like a serious problem at one single school district. That story put together by April Marie, or our April Marie. She's at 1819 News. And you got to step back and ask yourself, like, what's what's going on in this particular school district? And why is this happening so often? There are a lot of problems in our schools across the country and in particular here in Alabama. And I don't believe that the politicians in Montgomery are focusing enough on that. They're focusing on ancillary issues, other things that are important to them, but not important to the people of Pickens County and the citizens of the state of Alabama. More on this when we get back. 205 545 9950 if you want to get in. 545 9950. It's the line, Talk 99.5. So, yeah, to my point that the politicians in Montgomery, and this is a law enforcement issue. This is not necessarily a Montgomery issue, but there are things that need to be done, and I don't necessarily know the answer to it, but things that need to be done by our lawmakers in this state to get a handle on stuff like this. Because we're in the business of, and we've had our complaints about state government, whether it's over the hemp bill, and we spent days talking about that when that was at the forefront, or they were getting ready to vote on that. We've talked about the prison system here in Alabama. I mean, days on end talking about that, especially after the release of the Alabama Solution documentary, which was which is a must see. I don't care who you are, if you have not watched that documentary.
It's very eye opening. I've watched it twice.
I believe it or not, I've watched it 3 times. I watched it.
Oh, did I say twice? I meant 4 times I've watched it.
Okay, so I've actually watched it 5 times.
Dang it.
I'm trying to think. So I watched it the first time, And then the second time around, I think I was watching it. I wanted to show my kid, and so I watched it with him, and then I watched it a third time with my brother-in-law. And it wasn't necessarily that I wanted to watch it again. It was I wanted other people to see it. And maybe in the back of my mind, I'm like, I'm gonna be here for it to make sure they watch it, but it is a must see. And you had Stacey George was on the show months ago, and I think even in some of our best ofs, we have replayed that interview, which was great.
Yeah, we have.
He was in the documentary as well as a former prison guard in the state of Alabama, talking about the things that he had seen. He's running for governor at this point, believe it or not. I don't know if he's qualified or what, but he is on track to be one of the many candidates in the primaries. I think he might be running as an independent actually. But if that's the case, he has the ability to get on the ballot in the general election, which we will see. Which reminds me, the governor's race, while it seems like it's kind of open and shut, like we know in the back of our minds what's going to happen, that this is Tommy Tupperville's race, like he's got it in the bag, and I still feel that way today. It is going to be interesting to see all the different names on the ballot because you had, as we said the other day, Darren Knight, who is the comedian known as Southern Mama, who announced that he is throwing his hat in the ring as a as a write-in. So he's launching basically a write-in campaign. He's not going to jump through the traditional hoops to get his name on the ballot, but in a lot of cases, I mean, you can run for governor not to necessarily win, but to launch something else or put yourself in a certain position to make your next moves, which may have nothing to do with politics or may have everything to do with politics.
What if he becomes governor?
That would be wild. I mean, I think if Darren Knight were to become governor, we would be, and I don't even know Darren Knight's politics, but I think we would be in a much better position here in the state of Alabama than we are with Kay Ivey. I mean, can we all agree with that?
Yeah, the press conferences would definitely be more entertaining
If he did them as Southern Mama,
Yes.
that would be ideal. Or to have him do Southern Mama in a debate with Kay Ivey. Kay Ivey's not running again, but if we could, if hypothetically, if Kay Ivey was running again, if we could get, Kay Ivey and her Southern drawl against Southern Mama going back and forth on the issues that affect Alabamians, I would be for that. I would be 100% behind that. Here's when it was announced a couple days ago. Alabama comedian Darren Knight, best known for his viral Southern Mama character, says he's officially entering Alabama politics with a write-in campaign for governor. Knight shared the announcement on social media, saying a separate page will launch soon, dedicated strictly to the campaign, while his main platform remains focused on entertainment. His main platform, as I noted yesterday, has got 3.4 million followers. That's quite the following. Politicians in Alabama don't have that many people following them on social media. So he's already ahead of the game on that front. From comedy stage to the campaign trail, in his announcement, Knight said Alabama is facing, quote, a host of issues he cares deeply about, and emphasized that despite his comedic career, he views many of the state's challenges as very serious. He also noted that Alabama allows write-in candidates in general elections, signaling how he plans to pursue the race. He said, quote, some of the state's issues are no laughing matter, adding that he wants to help make Alabama even better. Running as a write-in candidate in Alabama, it says Knight's path to the ballot will look very different from traditional candidates. Alabama law allows write-in candidates in the general election, but there are strict rules that must be followed before votes can count, such as a declaration required. Candidates must file a declaration of write-in candidacy with the Alabama Secretary of State. The deadline, the form must be filed 76 days before the general election, or votes will not be counted. Voters must physically write the candidate's name in the write-in space on the ballot, and you got to imagine it's got to be legible. Votes count if the name reasonably matches the filed candidate's name. So again, it's got to be legible and it's got to be written the right way. So if he files as Darren Knight, just Darren Knight, that's what they have to write. If he puts his middle initial in there, they got to write as a middle initial. So it could get confusing. Writing candidates must still follow Alabama campaign finance reporting laws, but in my opinion, most write-in candidates don't really have a lot of campaign contributions. They are writing campaigns, and I'm just reading this verbatim, are rare and historically difficult to win, relying heavily on name recognition and voter awareness since candidates don't appear on the printed ballot. Knight rose to national fame through his viral videos and stand up performances portraying his Southern Mama character. Now he says the platform is shifting towards public service. And again, as it says, writing campaigns have always relied heavily on name recognition and voter awareness. And so that's likely what he's hinging all of this on is name recognition. But my question to that is, and again, there's nothing wrong, not even knowing his politics. There's nothing wrong with him running for the governor of Alabama. But normally in these situations, when somebody, it's not always the case, but normally when someone decides to run for governor, especially in a traditional sense, like a politician is running for governor, somebody pushes them to do it. Like there's somebody in their ear saying to them, "Hey, you could make a difference in this race, or that I believe you can win." They usually don't convince themselves on their own. They've got other people on the outside telling them that they can win. And that's just human nature. That dictates decision making all the time. It's peer pressure, if you will. So people say, "Oh, I think you can do it. I think you can win. I think you can do this. I think you can do that." And they ultimately make this decision to do so. I wonder in Darren Knight's case, who was it that got in his ear and said, "You should run for governor. You should insert yourself into politics, into public service." And of course, maybe it's something he's thought about for a long time. Who knows? People tell me I should run for office, which I don't think I ever would.
Yeah, I don't think you could be a talk show host anymore, could you?
Well, I guess I could.
Conflict of interest?
Nah, I don't think so. I think it'd be fine. I mean, there's been plenty of politicians that have, Mike Pence was a talk show host at one time. Of course, he didn't do it at the same time he was in politics.
Right.
But the way radio works now, I can broadcast from wherever. So if I'm in the governor's mansion, I'll just have him build me a studio and do my show and be like, "Hey, I know we got important stuff going on here in Alabama, but I need a break from 10 to 2 every day to do my radio show." I can do two things at once. It's not that big of a deal. And I think I can win, right, John Bird?
Absolutely.
Bottom of the hour, more of the lot coming up. Here we go, the line, Talk 99.5, talk995.com. On YouTube, Real Talk 99.5 TV. And I am very excited. I had talked to Brian Dawson, CEO of 1819 News this morning, and talked to him about some of the stuff that he's got coming up. I'm like, man, I need to get you on the show sometime. And he's a busy man. So I didn't know how quick I could get him on the show. And I was pleasantly surprised when he hit me up. He's like, hey, man, I got a break. Let's come on the show and talk about some stuff. Brian, what's up, buddy? Good to hear from you, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me on. Fired up. Anytime I can come on the 100,000-watt blowtorch in Birmingham, tough thing to pass up.
Yeah, buddy. Well, listen, you're big time too, because not only are you getting to call in, you're calling in on our celebrity hotline, but you fill in up here sometimes too, and you do a phenomenal job.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, you do a good. I mean, we don't just let anybody up here. You got to be big time to be filling in. So you fall in that category. Let me ask you a couple of things real quick, and you've got some of your own things going on, which I do want to get into. But we were just talking about Darren Knight, the comedian, everybody knows the Southern Mama deal, and his announcement that he's going to be running a write-in campaign for governor. What is your thoughts on that? Is that just, we know how write-in campaigns are going to play out, but from you, Brian Dawson, who's hyper focused on Alabama politics, what do you think's behind this?
I think that there's a lot of people that are upset that Coach Tuberville, entered the race. Now, it wasn't an uncontested race that he entered. It became uncontested once he entered because no one wanted to waste their money trying to beat someone with 100% name ID with super high faves that's been a complete and total badass in Washington, D.C., and has been up there fighting for the people. And so even Will Ainsworth, who I love and was guaranteed going to be the next governor if Coach Tuberville didn't do that, even Ainsworth was like, hey,
yeah,
I'm not running against him. And so there's some people who don't like that, and they're like, oh, well, that's against democracy that we don't have a contest. And so it could be some type of a protest of that. I'm not really sure. I actually, shame to admit this, didn't know about this write-in candidate thing. But I mean, you see it all over the place with, some of the people that, even Doug Jones. It's the same kind of idea. It's like, really, man, seriously,
right?
But what are you gonna do?
Yeah, yeah. You wonder why. Part of what I wonder is who wants to spend the money on individuals. I mean, Doug Jones, you could make the argument that the Democrat Party's got the money or whatever, but it's for a lot of us on the outside looking in, we're like, this is a done deal for Coach Tuberville. Like this is his race. This is his his race to win. Nobody's really, unless something, and maybe that's what everybody's banking on, is just some sort of earth-shattering scandal comes out and railroads Coach Tuberville. He's got it. I mean, he's got it in the bag, pretty much.
Yeah, and as controversial as Coach Tuberville has been, and I mean that in a good way, in an endearing way, in D.C., if you've been in D.C. for 6 years, fighting against the trannies, fighting against the Muslims, fighting against Biden's Department of Defense when he went to war with them for 10 or 11 months, to keep the Department of Defense from paying women to go, shop back their babies out of their womb in another state that allows it. If there was some type of skeleton there, it would have been done come out.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
That. So that's it. And then everyone's talking about his residency or whatever, and it's like, you don't think he would have maybe looked into that a little bit before leaving being the senior United States Senator of the state of Alabama? I think maybe he might have had like a lawyer or two look at that, maybe just take a gander at it before vacating that seat.
Yeah, it's much like with the Trump derangement syndrome and we've got him this time. Like, if there was something about Donald Trump that was going to railroad his political career in any way, it would have already been out there. Like, they would have already laid it on the table. They would not let Tommy Tuberville get this far into the game without laying out the evidence that they have as to what a bad person he is.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be
Completely agree.
smooth sailing for him. And I'm a big fan. I think he's done a phenomenal job since he's been in the Senate, and I'm excited because I have been very unexcited about our leadership in Alabama thus far, especially with the governor. But that's my personal opinion for a plethora of reasons. I think it's time for new leadership, fresh leadership that actually concentrates on the issues that Alabamians care about, which is something you guys at
Or
1819. Yeah,
concentrates, period, right? Is able to concentrate.
exactly.
Is able to think.
Exactly.
Is able to have a synapses go off in their brain. That's not a vegetable that drinks bourbon and wears pantsuits. But I digress.
It's bizarre to me how we even got in this position in the first place. And I know we can think back about, who she was running against and everything else, but sometimes don't you just wake up and you're like, how did we get Meemaw? I mean, she was just kind of handed to us, right? I mean, through the previous governor, it was just like, here she is, y'all vote for her. This is the only choice you got, and you see where that got us.
There's and again, who knows? Alabama political folklore is its own kind of thing. But the political folklore that I was told when we came in is essentially that when she was the treasurer, she so screwed up the program where basically, like, if you have a child, you can go to the state and invest $50,000 with them, and then when your child turns 18, they can go to any of the state universities they want. And it was a way to basically gin up cash flow for the state, investment dollars, whatever. Well, somehow she completely butchered that, and everyone's like, oh, my God, what are we going to do with Kay? She's been in the damn government forever. We got to put her somewhere. They're like, Lieutenant Governor. She can't screw anything up there. Enter Bentley, can't keep his hands to himself, and poof, Meemaw.
Yeah. So it was almost an accident that we got Kay Ivey because she was put in the lieutenant governor spot just so she couldn't do anything, and now look at where we're at. Now we're building mega prisons.
Not doing anything.
except building mega prisons. I mean, we've got that going for us, right?
They're named after her. Yeah, that's true.
Have you watched the Alabama Solution documentary?
I was actually flying to D.C. to interview Tuberville last week, and I watched it on the plane thing with the cheap earbuds. I'm sure you've been there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did. I watched it.
What was your takeaway from that? We've talked about it a lot on the show, and we actually brought one of the guys, Stacy George, who was one of the corrections officers that was interviewed in the documentary, talking about all the problems. What was your takeaway after watching it?
Yeah, well, as someone with a lot of expertise in the realm of prison, it was a mix. It was kind of back and forth because, like, though I've done 5 years in prison myself, and then of course I'm sympathetic to some things on the criminal justice side, but for the most part I'm a tough on crime person, and some of the heinous crimes that are committed, I think these people need to be getting executed, not sitting in prison. We need to be killing more people faster. However, if you're going to house humans, you have to treat humans humanely, right? And that is obviously not happening in the state of Alabama. And there's some stuff that needs to be done to change that. Now, you're talking about a completely different level of caliber of criminal that you have in Alabama. The value of human life in inner cities in Alabama is like that of a third world country, right? Like you go to Mexico and they're just like killing each other on the street and stuff. Well, that's how it is in the inner cities of Alabama, in the South, period, whether it's Memphis, whether it's, whatever, Chicago and Baltimore too, so it's not just the South. Just the value for human life doesn't exist. And you're dealing with some of the coldest, hardest killers on the planet, and you have to exercise authority over them if you're going to house them. And sometimes that can get really, it can be rough. Mm. But I thought the people who made that documentary did a really good job of uncovering things and unpacking things and showing where some things that were done wrong. But I think the flip side of it is like, well, what are we supposed to do with these people,
Yeah.
And maybe that's where the mega prison comes into play. I don't know. I don't know. But I actually have a ton of thoughts and didn't know that we were going to be talking about this. Maybe sometime I'll go on your podcast and we can just talk prison.
Yeah, yeah, I would actually love that. We need to set that up because I was very passionate about that documentary, and it's crazy because the people that put that documentary together are not people like me and you, and I mean that in the sense of our conservative beliefs. Like they're on the other side of the
Yeah,
spectrum. They're against the death penalty and all this kind of stuff, which we are
yeah,
for. But you see a lot of shocking things throughout that movie that I didn't personally realize were going on. And it's not just in Alabama, it's in other states across the country that in reality where you do have people in there that have committed heinous crimes and don't really deserve any sort of leeway. We do still have to treat them humanely. That's not giving them a free
correct.
pass at Club Fed or anything like this, and or giving them accommodations in any way, but to say, there is a bare minimum on how we treat you, and this is what we're going to do for your time in prison. And as you stated, with your experience and everything else, it's it was just crazy to me in the situation with the state of Alabama building this mega prison that is not going to be expanding the number of beds. Not that I want to see more people in prison. I want us doing things to keep people out of prison and keep crime down. But I don't know. I don't know that that's going to solve the problem. I'm kind of like you. I don't really know what the solution is. I just see what the problem is, and it's a very disturbing problem. But again, I didn't bring you on to bring that stuff up. It's just something that's been on my mind, and I've been meaning to talk to you about, so we can get further into
There you
that
go.
later on. We'll get you on the podcast or something. You
Yeah,
do
no,
have
it's a
an
great subject, and it's. I literally just watched it last week too, so it's kind of providential that you brought it up.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah, I've been pushing people to watch it, and if you haven't watched it, y'all really need to. Like, dead serious about that. Do you have a couple more minutes where we can get you on the other side? I really wanted to talk to you about this Montevallo stuff, which has been
Yeah,
something going back and
I'm
forth.
driving for the next 4 hours, so
Okay,
yeah.
perfect, perfect. Well, hang on for me. We'll bring you back on the other side. Brian's got a big event coming up at Montevallo, at the University of Montevallo, that has been deemed hateful and bigoted and racist, and they need to cancel it and everything else. So we'll talk about that and much more when we get back, y'all. Hang tight. All right, here we go. The Line Talk 99.5. My man Brian Dawson, CEO of 1819 News, with us. You said you're on the road for 4 hours. Where you headed?
From Nashville back to my abode in Wetumpka, Alabama.
Oh, I gotcha. Did you have an event in Nashville, or was it Mardi Gras or what?
No, we're actually the success that we've had with 1819 News in the state of Alabama has been taken notice by red states all over the country. I've had folks, very serious folks in Arizona, Idaho, Utah, Texas, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, Kansas, North Carolina, South Carolina, even Ohio, have reached out to me wanting me to come to their state and replicate what we've done with 1819 for the great state of Alabama. They think, well, and I think too, it is replicatable, and it's always been kind of part of the plan.
Wow.
But Tennessee is where we're going to be setting up shop next, and obviously we'll continue doing everything just like we are with 1819 in Alabama. I'll continue being me there, but we're going to be building a team to replicate that success in Tennessee. And in 10 years, we hope to have 38 statewide, state-focused news and multimedia outlets focusing on their respective red and purple states.
Wow. That's great. Well, listen, don't forget about us when you blow up, my friend. I mean, you're going to leave us in the dust. That's crazy. That's big time, man. Well, and speaking of big time, I see that, and we briefly discussed this, but this Turning Point event that you had scheduled for Montevallo. It was a Prove Me Wrong event where you would be on stage, I assume, taking questions from the audience and people there at the campus at University of Montevallo. I found out through your social media that earlier this month that Montevallo had caved to the mob and decided to cancel the event. Explain to me that process of how all that happened.
Yeah, so kind of interesting. I got engaged with Turning Point USA shortly after Charlie got shot and assassinated. And about 2 weeks after he got shot, I was speaking at a TPUSA event up in Madison. And I was set to speak at a church, and I was the keynote speaker. We were advertising it on 1819. And someone vandalized the church and spray painted my name all over the church and said I serve the Antichrist. And so that was my first Turning Point event. And I met some of the regional reps for Turning Point, a guy named Jacob Lawrence, who handles kind of North Alabama and Mississippi in that region, and some other folks, and really just hit it off with them. Great people. And as more time goes on, they had some people that would go to campuses and speak, but they hadn't really found anybody they felt like could go on really do a Prove Me Wrong, go head to head, toe to toe with some of these kind of angry left leaning college students. And again, not that I can hold a candle to Charlie Kirk, but they felt like I was the person who could do that in Alabama, and so they lined up a bunch of these Prove Me Wrong, pick up the mic in honor of Charlie, and prove do Prove Me Wrongs where I'm in a tent and the college students come up and ask questions and we debate, et cetera, et cetera. I'm really excited about it. But Montevallo was supposed to be my maiden voyage, and we started kind of pumping it out at 1819. Turning Point was advertising it, and the students at Montevallo staged a walkout and said on, February 12th or whatever the day was that I was supposed to do it. I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think it was last Thursday. So yeah, the 12th. And they used my full name. They're like, we do not approve that you had Kenneth Brian Dawson allowed on campus to speak. He's a, blah, 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 blah. And so they're going to do a walkout. And then a whole bunch of death threats came in. Literally on 1819 social media, Brian Dawson's going to get the Charlie Kirk treatment and all kinds of other stuff like that, which whatever. Part of the business. And we weren't fazed by it. We said, okay, yeah, no, that just means we need to do the event even more. And between those two things, Montevallo canceled. Now, I will say in my dealings with Montevallo since then, and it could have been from the media pressure that we applied to them or whatever, they did reschedule, and they were pretty quick to reschedule. And so they may have had legitimate safety concerns, whatever the case. But the problem was what they did. This is the problem. When you cave to the liberal mob, it's like when you have a kid in the grocery store and he throws a temper tantrum because you didn't get him a candy bar, and then you give him the candy bar to make him stop throwing the temper tantrum. You're teaching them that his tactics work. The temper tantrum tactics worked, and that's what you're teaching them. And so now every event I do here on out, and I've got a bunch of them scheduled in the next 6 weeks, I'm going to have even crazier, more amped up psychopaths that feel like their tactics work, and when they don't work, the temper tantrums are going to get even more out of control. And who knows what that's going to look like for me, And again, doesn't matter. I'm doing it no matter what.
Right.
But by Montevallo caving, they taught. There's a word I want to use that you're not allowed to say on radio waves. Crap libs. That's what I'll call them. Taught crap libs that they can just throw temper tantrums and get what they want. And so now my life is going to be that much, harder for the next however many times I do this. And so I was pretty ticked about that. But, what are you going to do? We got it rescheduled, and we're ready to freaking go.
Yeah, well, it's awesome that it's back on. I think that's amazing. But you do have to wonder, like, again, with the people throwing the temper tantrums, at the end of the day, they're not going to be getting their way because the event will go on. So you got to ask yourself, how are those individuals, if they were to show up, how are they going to act on the day of, like during the event when you're actually there?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm as anxious to find. Anxious even like I'm like kind of like this could be. And again, the crazier they go, the smarter we look, right? Like they don't understand that like they're doing themselves a huge disservice. Like the people in Minneapolis, like that crazy, Butch, whatever it was, Renee Good's wife that was talking all that smack to the cop. I was in the military, and then their, wife gets smoked. Like, the whole thing, just they don't do themselves any favors. The crazier they get, the crazier they look, and the crazier they look, the more everyone can kind of see that we're right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the crazier they get, the crazier they look, and the more crazy they look, the more normal we look because we are. And then we win. And so if they throw the craziest temper tantrums on the planet, well, good for us, because the whole goal is you're probably not going to change the lunatic's mind, but there's a whole bunch of people that are sitting there on campus that their mind isn't made up about conservatism and politics. Their mind isn't made up about Jesus Christ and his lordship. Their mind isn't made up about a lot of these different things. And while the person I'm debating may not ever convert, and I hope they do, there's all these other people that are watching. Mm-hmm. And when they throw temper tantrums like that and they look crazy, you're helping those undecideds move our way.
That's exactly right. And your character is everything. Even in the faith, as you mentioned, your day-to-day actions speak volumes about who you are, and they speak volumes to the people that see you on a day-to-day basis. And it changes minds. It changes hearts. Well, listen, man, we're pulling for you. I'm very excited about not just this event, but the other upcoming events you got. I am more than happy to promote those for you. So just keep me in the loop, and we'll make sure our audience knows exactly what big-time Brian Dawson is doing on a regular basis.
Big time Mac Daddy Dawson, baby.
That's right. Big-time Mac Daddy Dawson. I like it. Well, all right, brother, be safe, and keep in touch with us, man. We'll talk to you soon, brother.
All right. Thank you.
All right. There's Brian Dawson, 1819 News. Love that guy. Love that guy. And he makes a point of getting on the podcast. Got to do that. Because he's got, if you don't know about Brian and what he's been through, his life story is one of the most fascinating stories you will ever hear. And I couldn't be more excited about his success and the success of 1819 News, which is one of our partners. Hour number 4 is coming up. Don't go anywhere.